All right, hey everybody. Hi, this is Lakita Long, and we are on Mental Mondays. And sorry for the technical difficulties earlier, so I had to use another phone, but it's all good. And so we're excited that today we are going to be talking about a topic that is really, really important to me. First of all, let me just say before I get started, I am so elated that everybody has really been chiming on. And guess what? Between the sexless marriage video and the Is Sex All Mental video, there have been several people that have stated that the information has worked. They are now involving themselves with sex and things of that nature. So I'm really excited to see that the information that we're talking about is actually working. So I want you guys to continue to keep praying for me. My job is just to give this information out and to hear back that several families and couples and relationships are now having sex when they weren't actually having sex. It's phenomenal. So I just wanted to give that report, and that's awesome. I always like to start from a question that someone has from the last time. So we had this question, which actually turned us on for this week. This question that we had was, in talking about the power of disappointment, the question was, I'm just going back to it. Okay, so the question was, can a person ever really get over being disappointed? And does disappointment lead into rejection? And if so, is that something that continuously happens? And so we're actually going to answer that question, but let me just give you a quick comment on that question. Yes, disappointment can lead people to an ongoing cycle of feeling rejected. Okay. Can people change from having a rejected persona? I don't know if you know that, but people can have a projected persona in which they always feel like they're being rejected. Part of it is internalized information that they have within their own selves. And the other part is environmental adaptations and how they were reared. So all of that plays an impact in how you and I work with other people, which is why it's so critical how we work with other people. So disappointment can lead to a person feeling rejected, but in all of it, there is a remedy from coming from a place of living under the guise of rejection. So I hope that that helps. That was a question from that one of the audience members had from last time. If you're just joining us, my name is Lakita Long. I'm the host for Mental Mondays. We are here live every Monday at 11:30 a.m. live on Facebook. And then we're also now starting tonight, I'm so excited, live at 8 p.m. Pacific time and 11 p.m. Eastern time. And on that show, I'll be interviewing people and dealing with family members. Oh, it's going to be happening. Experts from across the country. And I'm so excited. So tonight we'll still be talking about the guise of hurts, habits, and hangups, but we're going deeper. We're going to take a different look inside of the soul of rejection. The soul of rejection. So today we're going to kind of give you a little background about the soul of rejection. And then tonight we're going in deep. So if you got stuff, issues, things of that nature, email it. It is all confidential. I'm telling you, I'm going to the grave with probably 1 million people's issues. And that's okay, because I believe that God has given me this. And so I go to God about stuff, and I'll be taking all this stuff to the grave that I received. But we got to deal with some other issues. So today on my beautiful, beautiful Mental Monday, we are talking about hurts, habits, and hangups. Every last one of us have been hurt. Every last one of us got some type of habit that's not a good habit. And all of us have had hangups at one point in time in our life. Now, the power behind it all, and I want to read what I wrote because it's so important for us to get this information. So, hurts, habits, and hangups are things that readily hinder and prohibit you and I from growth in many areas in our life: emotional, spiritual, psychological, etc. In researching this topic, I found that many churches actually use the slogan hurts, habits, and hangups. And they use it as an entry point to describe their recovery program, which I thought was interesting, around many different issues that people face. What's interesting was the amount of issues that they put under the guise of recovery, and looked at it from that viewpoint about how it hinders their relationship with God. And I want to go a step further and say it doesn't just hinder your relationship with God. Hurts and habits and hangups hinders everything about who you are. That's just the truth of the matter. So it hinders everything. What's interesting about this hurt and the habits and the hangups is that, and I'm going to define each one of them for you, is that they come unexpectedly and they grow up with you. That's the pain of it all. Your hurt, your habits, and your hangups, they can grow up with you and live dormant inside of you. And you see it as a normalized process. You know, you see people embarrassing you as a normalized process if you've grown up underneath that guise. And what I'm trying to share with you is that nothing that doesn't allow you to become your full potential self is something that we should hold on to. Okay, so let's go to what a hurt is. Now, we all know this information, but I just want to give you a breakdown. A hurt is when someone experiences physical pain that's either caused by ourselves or another person. To feel emotional pain or to experience difficulties or setbacks that cause you to mentally become unstable. The feeling of being hurt is an emotional reaction. The feeling of being hurt is an emotional reaction to another person's behavior or to a disturbing situation. So like abandonment, when a person feels abandoned by their parents or their family. Oftentimes, if they remotely see a situation that looks like that hurt or that abandonment, they will also attribute it to the same thing they felt with their parents. So it translates from one situation to the next. Now, a hang up is such that, and I want to scroll down so that we get this information. A hang up is a psychological or emotional problem or fixation on something. It's an issue that causes persistent impediment or delay. So a hang up could be something like, I can't go outside when there's a lot of people. So that hang up then creates anxiety. And then what ends up happening is, if it's not dealt with, you start to have agoraphobia, where you fear outside. So if the hang up of not being around a bunch of people outside is not addressed, then being inside will cause you to become anxious. And then the anxiousness will further create a delay in your ability to deal with going outside with all the people. And then you develop agoraphobia. So I hope that you're understanding how all this stuff becomes a chain reaction. That's a hang up. Now, a habit is a regular repeated behavioral pattern that is repeated so often that it almost becomes a part of the person. So it's like an addiction to food, where you're just eating so much. You're eating so much that you don't even know you eat 6,000 calories a day. Now, we know that 3,500 calories equals a pound, right? So if 3,500 calories of eating calories it equals a pound, and you're eating 7,000 calories a day, then you automatically are putting on 2 pounds somewhere. You may not see it today, but 2 weeks down the line, you'll feel it in your body before you actually see it actually on the bones of your skin in terms of fat. So hurts, habits, and hangups, they impede everything, especially relationships. And so for a second, I want us to look at the partial list of some hurts and habits and hangups. So we have abuse, sexual, emotional, physical, dysfunctional families, alcohol dependency, anger, anxiety, codependency, controlling personalities, depression, divorce. All these things are attributed to the soul of what I'm calling the soul of rejection. Overspending, people pleasing, perfectionism, pornography. So pornography is a habit that people have when they can't stop looking at videos, but it goes farther than that. I'm going to help you. Pornography starts at the base root of this. So what happens is with pornography is that, and because we have all these little phone devices, we can have pornography on our little phones. We can have it anywhere, and people not even know that we're there having that kind of addiction. But it starts with the lust. Of course, we know what the scripture says, the lust of the eye, the pride of life, all those things. It's the lust. It's the lust of what you desire that you cannot have, that you want. And so you find a way to fulfill that lust. And so for a man or woman, because women are being sexually prone to pornography as much as men today, yes, women, you are full of pornography as well. And it starts with a variety of different things. Now you can start off with the lusting of your eye, we know that. But seeing a video, I personally, I can't watch too many sex scenes. I'm single, and my freak meter can't handle it. It just can't handle it. And so because I'm single and have no way of relieving my sexual frustration, I don't watch too many sexual scenes because the freak meter goes from 0 to 100 in 2.2 seconds. So we have to know who we are. And so when believers play games with who they are, there will always be an addiction when we don't deal with the lust of our flesh. So I have to constantly, and I'm a worshiper too, I have to constantly kill this flesh. I have to constantly say, down in the name of Jesus. And sometimes that doesn't work. So I have to really think about what is also attached to the feelings that I'm having currently. So we were talking about pornography and how it attracts people and get them into addiction. And it starts with the lust. It starts with the eyes. It starts with looking at what you think you can handle. And let me tell you something. Some scenes on even regular TV, I just can't handle because they are doing a lot because they want to evoke a response. Trust that. They want to evoke a response in you, one, watching it again. So they want you to feel the realness of what's going on. So some shows are just pornography out, even regular TV. So we have to watch that. And this can be a hang up for people in the bedroom. Because see, if your husband, so we'll talk about in the context of husbands and wives, if your husband's been looking at porn and then come to the bedroom to deal with what he's seen on the porn flick, and it's not coming from a true state of him loving you, but him lusting after you, you as the wife will feel something different and it won't feel as genuine. Now, what you and your husband do in the bed, that's your business. And we get that. But what happens with pornography is it begins to pervert the ideology of how far we can go. And I don't believe that there's any stopping point in the bed. I think that you and your partner have to be very comfortable with whatever is going on. So because, and you're right, sister, sex is power and it does a whole lot of things. So when we're talking about hurts and habits and hangups, some hangups like abuse, it can be a hangup. And so if somebody's been sexually abused, let's talk about that for a second. If sexual abuse has been a part of your foundation, then your ability to maybe be sexually free is not so free. Or on the other side, you're really promiscuous. And so all of our life's stuff that we experience in this life, it creates a foundation for us. So what I'm trying to say on this live show, and we're going to get more in depth tonight on the live radio show. It's going to be crazy at 8 p.m. All I'm trying to say is that with the hurts and the habits and hangups that you have, there is a soul of rejection that's attached to it. And I want to deal with rejection for just a moment, because I think everybody can relate to rejection, and I'm just looking at our time. So rejection plays a very significant role in our hurts, our habits, and our hangups. And if we don't deal with the root of the rejection, it will move into other roles in our life. Rejection is painful. If you've ever been rejected from a leader, it's painful. At your job, at the church, it's painful. And the reason why it's painful, because it incorporates mental, physical, social, personal, and spiritual evolution of one's mind. So with all those components being messed with, when you or I are rejected, the experience of rejection sends us to a place that we don't want to be, because we've attached ourselves to the person doing the rejecting or the thing that we have been rejected from. So when we let's look at this whole concept of church hurt for a minute. And I believe you can have church hurt, but I always will say this. Church hurt is a hurt that, one, most of us came into the church with some level of hurt already. So when we rub up against the rejection from other church people, then the hurt that we already had gets pushed, and that wound opens up again, even greater, because now mentally we're thinking, how do we get hurt in the church, right? But how do we not get hurt in the church? Jesus got hurt by his disciples. So being hurt is not the real issue of your concern. The real issue is how deeply it's affecting you and prohibiting your ability to be productive. See, God is after our fruit in our life. The world system is after what we can produce also in our life. And you personally need to be responsible for what you're producing. And you can't keep blaming other people for their inability to deal with themselves and with you, how you respond. So, for example, hurt people will take a situation 12 years ago and make it a brand new hurt situation 20 minutes ago, because they're constantly playing it in their head. And people of God, listen, you got to really look at what you bring to the table called life. You got to look at it, and we got to quit playing games, and we have to look at our own hangups, what we've been holding on to, who's hurt us, who hasn't hurt us. At some point, you yourself have to stop and say, it's me hurting me. I keep feeling a certain way. So every time I see a certain thing from any type of person that reminds me of a certain person, I'm hurt all over again. Now, that means that you're not doing what God said do. Die to your flesh. Kill your flesh. Lay down your flesh. Pick up the cross. So what I'm trying to say on this Mental Monday, and then I'll take your questions. Hi, Ariel. Thank you so much for coming to join us on last night. It was a joy to meet you. What I'm trying to say is this, and then I'll open it up for questions. Our hurt disposition will move into intentional habits that become dysfunctional hangups. So we've got to make up in our minds and make a decision. I won't let the hurt that I've experienced, and I've been deeply hurt just as you have, but I won't let the hurt experience wound my entire being. And this is where we have to be at. At some point we have to say, I don't want what I've been through to become my destiny, the promised person that I am to be. And so tonight when we're on the show, I want to share something with you, 2 points about rejection. And then tonight I'm going to deal with how you get from a place of not being rejected to where it hurts your core being. We're going to talk about that tonight on the live radio show. But there's 2 things you ought to know about rejection. Rejection destabilizes your need to feel like you belong. That's why it's painful. Let that land for a second. Rejection immobilizes and destabilizes your need to feel like you belong. That's why it hurts so much. We need to feel belonged. I don't care who you are. Everybody wants to feel like they belong somewhere, to be a part of something. So when we've been rejected, it destabilizes our need to feel like we belong. The second thing that rejection does is it creates surges of anger and depression. Ooh, it creates surges. So one day you're, hey, how you doing? And the next thing you're like, get out of my face. It creates surges of anger and depression. So rejection is deep. The soul of rejection is so intense that we can't discuss everything. But I do want to make sure that I get to some of your questions. So I'm going to look at some of the stuff that you guys have written out. Yes, rejection breeds Ravonda. It breeds insecurity. Absolutely. You don't deal with the hurt and the rejection of a past lover. You're going to look at your present lover like you did from the past lover. So you have got to remove yourself from the pain of where you've been. And that is really the holdup from you or I experiencing something great. If you've been in a bad situation, a bad relationship, a bad marriage, it is going to become your number one job to lose all of the memory of that to the point where you can be free to experience something new. It's so critical. So critical. Hey, Amalia. So here's the thing. I want you to consider something, because tonight we're going to go a little raw on the live radio show to really help out some people. And there's going to be somebody that's going to be coming on live tonight as well on the radio, on the Blog Talk Radio show. And after the live video, it will have information that will show up for you as to where you can go online from your phone or on your computer to chime into the Blog Talk Radio tonight at 8 p.m. But I want you to consider that when you are not truly allowing yourself to deal with the hurts of your past, you will always shipwreck what you got going on right now. I say this in all honesty. I'm looking at a lot of single people, and I've been having this question. And you always say, because I'm always interested in relationships, period. And so I always wonder, why are there so many single people? And I shared this last night too, particularly because every woman is saying the same thing, doing the same thing as all the other single women. And we got this mindset that we've adopted from somewhere, and obviously it's not really working. And so I want you all to get to the root, though, of some other issues. Some of you are hurt to the core, And you know how I know? Because your persona shows it. Your social media shows it. It's not just a front. When people meet you in public and in personal places for the first time, when people are around you, your hurt seeps out. Your habits that hinder your productivity. Like, for example, a habit of not being disciplined. If you're trying to be in TV, this is something I'm coming to realize. I got to get disciplined even more. Like, my stuff has got to be planned out the whole week. Like everything, the script. So that means I'm going to have to pull some 14-hour days for sure for some weeks at a time in order to get it to the place where I want it to be. And that's a reality. So that means what other habits I have that's hindering my ability to be disciplined to do that, I must cut the habit off. And that is how you move from a destructive habit to a successful place of moving forward in your life. And so, and I see your questions. So the question is, single women don't want to marry. Why? I believe that we're lying. And I'm saying we, I'm single, and I'm just talking in general when I say we. But we're lying, single women. I don't really believe that many of us really want to be married. This is just my thoughts. I think that we want to say that we want to be married because it sounds right, than saying maybe I've been called, like Paul, to not be married. Or we say that because we want marriage to benefits. We want to have sex. We want to have a companion that takes care of us, but we don't actually want to do the work. Marriage is hard freaking work. It's hard work. You got to come out the bedroom sometime. So marriage is not all sex and all of that. It's work. You got to deal with their idiosyncrasies. You got to deal with their temperamental ways. You got to deal with their attitudes. You got to deal with their ups and downs. You got to deal with all this stuff. Today you might be in love. Tomorrow you might not. But the key is that when you're married, you can't stop loving somebody just because you don't like what they're doing. You still got to like them even when, you still got to love them even when you don't like them. And so when you don't like what they're doing for the day, your love has to supersede how you feel in a marriage. You can't just decide, I'm out of here. And that's the mindset that people have going into today's marriage. They don't want to stick through nothing. They don't want to go through nothing. Everything got to be this way and that way. And that's just not the truth. That is just a lie from the pit, and it ain't the truth. Everything is going to have something in it. You just have to have a level of tolerance of what it is that you're willing to deal with. And we want covenant. You're right, Sister Ravonda. We want covenant. But we're lying about it. I don't believe that we're truthful. Because here's the other reason why I don't think most women really want to be married. Because they're not preparing themselves for the marriage. Okay, good, you know how to cook. Good, you know how to have great sex. Good, you know how to keep a home nice and clean. But there's so much more to being a wife than that. Can you build your man up and your man up alone? Hello, lights, camera, action. Or are you building up your man and everybody else's man? The marriage has everything to do with being a woman that's wise, knowing the temperature of your whole household, and learning when to speak and when to shut your mouth. So marriage has a lot to do, and I talk about it. Can you deal with the ups and downs in a marriage? Are you ready to be in covenant? If your husband tells you, hey, babe, if this week, if it's not something that you really have to do in the evening, like it's not something for your job, and if it's something that you can put off, can you do that next week? And so you have to, if it's not a job thing, some ministerial things other folks are going to have to do if your husband's asking, sweetheart, I really do need you for 3 days this week. So we're not asking those questions. Are we willing to turn off who we say are super misimportant in order to be his importance? And when we come to becoming his importance as unto God, being his helpmeet, and no man that's got you, if he knew that you were a go-getter and all that kind of stuff, he's not going to try to hinder that portion. But I'm going to tell you something, single women, as you transition from being single to being married, if your heart is not bent towards the household, it's going to be difficult for you to stay married. And these are some of the hangups that women have also. There's a dysfunctionality of what your role is in marital situations and in relationships. Men think differently from women. And this is all that I'm going to say because our time is up. But I want to encourage you to really understand the value and the power of commitment, and submission to God, what that looks like, and being able to say, yes, I will obey the man that you send for my life. And that's critical. So this is Mental Mondays. We've been talking about hurts, hangups, and habits. And we've been talking about the soul of rejection. And I hope that some smidgen of it has been helpful to you. And I will go back and answer all your questions. Make sure you hang out with us tonight on the live radio show, Blog Talk Radio Show, where we're going to be talking a little bit more deeper about the soul of rejection so that people can get help around the areas of rejection, hurts, habits, and hangups. I pray that it's been a blessing. I love you guys so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And tune in tonight on the radio show. Now that is going to be the blessing also. The radio show is going to be phenomenal and it's going to help you. Mwah. I love you guys so much. Thank you.